The Lost Child. Written and narrated by Lady Spookaria. I have been going ghost hunting and urban exploring for 3.5 years now. I've been to local tourist traps and did some independent places. Some were just scams and just for the owners to earn some extra coin. As long as it was fun, I didn't mind. I've also done some not so legal exploration into abandoned houses, hospitals, shopping centers, graveyards, and other places. I found some pieces of evidence, but it was mostly circumstantial. A couple of possible pieces of communication that could be written off as electrical interference. Still, it's pretty encouraging. I believe wholeheartedly in the paranormal. Spirits are a part of life, and I think in time it will become common knowledge. We just haven't found proof yet, and their technology hasn't caught up. The biggest issue is coming up with actual evidence. That being said, I try to be skeptical despite my beliefs and try to find actual evidence rather than just screaming and assuming every dust particle is a ghost orb. When I go to a place, I record my mental state, track oxygen and carbon dioxide levels, because when both drop, they can cause dizziness and hallucinations. You can tell I'm not a fan of channels or TV shows where they base things on hysteria. I get their purpose is for entertainment and they want views. Still, it decreases the work that has gone into this field, and it is something I'm passionate about. There are 3 main things I think people forget. 1. How dark it can be without any artificial light. And you notice this in most abandoned towns. No neighboring lights nearby, spotty reception, and overall, it increases the feeling of helplessness. 2. How cold it can be in the early morning. And 3. I don't think people are quite prepared for how bored you might end up being. Most of the time, you're in a dark room with a device, waiting for a response that usually doesn't come. I'd say 80% of the time, you don't see or get any evidence. I also don't include a creepy feeling as an indicator. There are human factors involved in this. Being isolated, in the dark in an unknown place. It is instinct to feel unsettled or unsafe in a place like this. People's senses are often heightened, and you should be careful. Homeless people, squatters, criminals, and all sorts of people can be found inside these places. They might assume that you're going to hurt them too, so some of them are armed, or they will set booby traps, so you need to watch out. Often the buildings have defects, especially the pipes, and it can cause strange sounds that could sound similar to howling or moaning. It's really scary the first time you hear it. I traveled with 2 friends, Jay and Tom, who would join me in going to an old farmhouse a couple of hours away. I never go alone to these places. Too many things could go wrong. I'm not giving away the location, because so many of these places end up being covered in graffiti or destroyed. Before we went, I researched the home to try to find out some basic information. The family were caught doing tax evasion and fled, leaving all their possessions behind. Essentially, they had become missing persons. In cases like these, your mind starts to become overreactive and wants to assume the very worst possibility, that they were murdered and you'll find them buried, hidden on the property, or you'll find the signs of a corpse. Luckily, I haven't found the latter. I couldn't find who currently owned the place, but I assume it was the government or the bank. By the time we got there, it was late afternoon. The sun was still up, and it would give us time to check the place out and set up. There was no missing it. It was a double-story farmhouse. We pulled up, close enough to make a speedy getaway, and double-checked to make sure there weren't any security cameras. Sometimes people would use fake ones to serve as decoys to keep intruders away. These ones were offline. It was far enough away from the road where we wouldn't be seen by the few cars driving past. The pathway leading up were overgrown with weeds, and there were slight signs of disrepair. The white paint had peeled off in sections, revealing wooden beams underneath, and from what I saw, no windows had been broken. The front door was locked, so we checked the downstairs windows, and found the back door had been left unlocked. Upon further inspection, it looked like someone had forced it open, and there was no sign of anyone being there currently. Looking through the windows, we saw everything was still in the house. Other than a layer of dust, everything looked pristine. We paused, looking for signs that a squatter could be inside, and all we could hear was the soft sound of birds singing. It was better to double check than be sorry. We also couldn't hear any stereotypical sound of humming or signs of bees or wasps. We decided to risk it and opened the door. The country-style kitchen was beautiful, still with mugs and fancy plates remaining in the cabinet. We looked for calendars or newspapers to get a possible date. We found the local county one, with 2005 on it. For a place we assumed hadn't been occupied for over 20 years, it was still in excellent condition. My friends and I joked about finding out whoever owned the property, because it looked like it would be easy to clean it up. We moved to the living room and the foyer, finding a hat rack, still with scarves and hats. The shoe rack still had the family shoes there. I'm not going to lie. It felt uneasy seeing people's belongings remaining, and knowing that these people could be dead. I smacked the feeling down, not wanting these feelings to influence my investigation. There was an old chunky TV on a cabinet, and rows of DVDs and Blu-rays. Underneath was a gaming console. Everything was in good condition, and while it was tempting to take things, I never did though. The only thing my group ever took were photos and other records of evidence, and that's it. There was no basement or cellar that I could see, or perhaps it was separate from the main house. One of my friends checked the stairs to make sure they were safe. Other than an odd creak, they were safe. There were 4 bedrooms up top, a family-sized bathroom, and a study. The hallway had rows of family photos. Some were black and white, while others were modern. Unfortunately, the sunlight had damaged them, causing them to become pale. I wished I could take these with me. There had to be some kind of archive for these sorts of things. Each of us went to different rooms. One was the couple's bedroom, and it was the master. Then a teenager's room, with faded posters of the Black Eyed Peas, Foo Fighters, and some other bands I couldn't see properly. Each room still had clothing in the drawers, old pieces of technology we all hadn't seen for some time. You could describe the place as the perfect time capsule. We took photographs in every single room at multiple different angles. Then we went outside to check the outside sheds, only to find old gardening tools and dead plants. There was an old outhouse, but that hadn't been used for some time. We did see a cellar. However, it was locked with a thick lock. Once we were done, we went back to the car to get something to eat. We were laughing, chatting among ourselves, when I could have sworn I saw a child, a little girl to be specific, staring out the top window at me. I blinked and she was gone. I thought it was weird, wrote it down in my journal, and hoped it wouldn't cause any further bias in the investigation. Once we were done, we went back inside, separated, and each of us went to our own room. For people who haven't experienced it yet, There was no light other than what we provided. It was pitch black. Using a flashlight and the EMP, we scoured the house. Other than minor fluctuations from an old power box, we didn't find anything of note. This wasn't strange. Next, we tried using a spirit box, asking a question, and giving the potential spirit some time to respond. I asked if anyone was there. No response. I asked if anyone wanted to speak to us. Again, no response. I asked if they wanted us to leave. Nothing. I figured this would be another time where it just didn't work out. I sent a message to the group chat, asking if they were having any luck. No, neither were. Jay was in the lounge room, while Tom had taken the kitchen. We figured these places could have more energy. There was a breeze that came through, but I realized there was a gap in the window frame that could have caused this. I made a note of it when I felt a tug on my sleeve. I stopped, wondering if I imagined it, and felt the air nearby. There was a sharp chill in the air, much colder than it had been outside. I decided to take the hallway above the stairs. That way it would be easy for me to duck into any of the bedrooms to see if those places had any signals. I sat at the bay window, looking out at the night sky. And no, I didn't see anything spooky outside. Picking up the spirit box, I decided to try again. Hello? Is anyone there with me?
Yes.
Yes. The answer came, all distorted but recognizable. I froze when I heard it. I've gotten some questionable sounds and some maybe hits in the past. This was the first definitive answer. I nearly forgot to ask again. Are you the one that just tugged on my sleeve?
Yes.
Yes, again. I felt excited by this possibility. To a point my brain froze, and I had to resist the urge to tell the others what I was experiencing. How old are you? I asked, curiously. There was a child's room, and I wondered whether this was the child.
4.
My heart sank. 4 years old? Dying at such a young age, and then being stuck inside an old, abandoned house. It showed it had conscious thought and interacted like one. It wasn't merely an echo. I didn't want to solely rely on myself, so I sent a quick message to the group chat. Guys, looking to something. Come in, but slowly. I hated the idea of her being all alone, here by herself. How long have you been here? I asked, pressing the button and giving her some time to respond. A long time. A long time? That made me even more sad. 20 years or so? That was a good period of time, especially to a child. Are you here by yourself? Pressing the button and waited. This time, I didn't receive any response. Odd and slightly unsettling, I thought to myself. It had been so chatty just moments ago. It could have been lonely. And I brought up a particularly sensitive subject. Or perhaps it was scared of whatever inhabited the house with it. Are you here by yourself? I insisted. No. No, came the response, and a part of me wished I didn't have the answer. I didn't like how the ghost kept hesitating to answer, wondering just what was lurking around the house with it. I may have had some confirmation bias, but at this point, I didn't care. My throat felt tight and I gulped, looking down the hallway for any sign of my friends, coming out, and glanced at my phone. It was off, the power having been run down. My heart rate increased. Desperately, I knew it would be important for me to slow it down and think as logically as possible. Are you scared? I asked. Perhaps I was projecting. only a little.
Yes.
Yes, this didn't help ease my worries. Biting my lip, knowing that I could, rather than should ask a question I had lingering in my mind, knowing full well that once it was out, there was nothing I could do. I needed it to be specific. Who other than myself and the 2 friends I brought here is with us? Waiting for a response, and didn't get one this time. I hoped it was just the spirit playing a prank on me. I felt the tug on my sleeve again. This time it was more panicked, intense, and I wanted to pick up my equipment, then run as fast as I could. Hey, shh, hey, it's okay, I comforted, not using the device this time, when the tug started to become rougher. Hey, easy! I realized the spirit was trying to pull me in the direction of the stairs, maybe trying to tell me to escape. Wait, are you asking me to leave? They kept pulling, this time more rapidly. I picked up the spirit box again. Is there someone here with us? There was silence, other than another
Yes.
could be heard. I knew it wasn't the little girl. The house was eerily silent, and I couldn't hear the other 2 downstairs. I didn't want to ask the next question. Who is here with us?
Him.
Him? Who was he? I didn't have to wait long to find out. I looked around. Coming out of the parents' bedroom was a dark shadow. It was loosely in a humanoid shape, and was heading directly toward me. I heard my friends screaming loudly. They called for me to get out of there, and left wanting to get to safety. But unfortunately for me, I was trapped, having to go through whatever it was when it consumed me. I felt the air being drawn out of me, suffocating, and a sharp pain in my chest. I was dying. A heart attack, I think, and soon my body flopped on the ground, lifeless. I didn't see who killed me at first, and I don't hold it against my friends. They came back for me once they realized I wasn't outside with them. They held me while I died, called the police, and that was the last time I ever saw them. I've been in the house alone with the little girl who helped me up and then taught me how to adjust to my new undead life. The house looks like it did before it was damaged by time and the elements. Clean sheets, a full fridge of delicious food, and it's hard to imagine it looking any other way. A factor I didn't expect was, I can't leave the house. It doesn't matter what time of year. I always end up in the same place. I don't know what we'll do when the house eventually crumbles into dust. Maybe that's when we'll be free to move on. The little girl and I have a pretend breakfast every morning, and at nighttime, I read her a bedtime story. We play in the garden, and otherwise, it was peaceful, except when we have living visitors. I'm not sure how it changes the atmosphere, but the house returns to the state it truly is. A dream broken. The placebo gone. It hurts to see them, and the memories of who I used to be would flood back. The little girl and I would try to warn them, but the more we did, the more they wanted to stay. My death only brought increased interest in the farmhouse, and that led to more people showing up. Thus far, it hadn't managed to take anyone else. Leave. Leave. You need to get out now. Hopefully it wouldn't be too late. I can see him. You need to get out. Now. Before it's too late. I hope you enjoy this story. What did you think of it? Let me know what you thought in the comments section down below. Don't forget to stab the like button, subscribe, hit the bell and leave a comment. This video is made with the support of my incredible channel members, Patreon subscribers, and all my viewers. Thank you so much for supporting me. Don't forget to check out my social media accounts below, including my merch. Stay safe, my little spooklings. And remember, I'll be watching you.